The rain hammered against my kitchen window like an angry debt collector demanding payment I couldn't afford. I was hunched over my vintage stereo system, trying to coax life back into the old Technics turntable that had been my companion since college. The smell of burnt electronics filled the air, mixing with the lingering aroma of June's expensive perfume, a scent that cost more than my monthly car insurance. "I'm going to the neon silo tonight with Rhett." June's voice drifted from the living room, sharp and defiant. "If you don't like it, we can just break up." My hands froze over the turntable's wiring. Did I just get dumped by ultimatum over drum and bass music? I'm Kian Merrin, 34 years old, and I fix computers for a living. Not the glamorous kind of IT work you see in movies. I crawl under desks, untangle cables, and explain to middle-aged office managers why they can't download their entire photo collection onto their work laptops. It's honest work, but it doesn't exactly make panties drop at cocktail parties. June Calrin, my wife of 3 years, works in marketing for a downtown firm that specializes in making terrible products seem essential. She's good at it. Really good. She can convince a drowning man he needs a subscription to premium water. Through the kitchen doorway, I watched her apply lipstick in the hallway mirror. Red. Not the soft coral she wore for me, but the kind of red that screams, "I'm available" to every guy in a 50-foot radius. "Did you hear me, Kian?" she called out, not bothering to look in my direction. "I heard you," I replied, keeping my voice level. "Have fun." She paused, lipstick tube halfway to her mouth. This wasn't the reaction she expected. June thrived on conflict. It gave her permission to escalate, to play the victim, to justify whatever she was planning to do anyway. "That's it? That's all you have to say?" I stood up, wiping my hands on an old rag. "What would you like me to say, that I forbid you? That I'll chain you to the radiator?" Her laugh was sharp, brittle. "At least that would show you care about something other than your precious electronics." The neon silo. Even the name made me want to roll my eyes. It was Riverside City's attempt at sophisticated nightlife. All neon lights and overpriced cocktails, where local success stories went to be seen, and middle-aged divorcees went to pretend they were still 25. And Rhett Vossen, my wife's high school boyfriend turned used car salesman turned local big shot. The kind of guy who wore gold chains unironically and thought expensive cologne could mask the scent of moral bankruptcy. "You remember Rhett, don't you?" June continued, her tone dripping with false innocence. "He's doing really well for himself now. Just bought that new BMW." Of course she knew about the BMW. Probably knew the monthly payment too. I walked into the living room where June was adjusting her dress, a little black number I'd never seen before. The price tag was still tucked discreetly under the arm. $240. More than I made in a day. "When did you buy that?" "Last week. I needed something nice for work events." Work events, right. Because marketing firms were famous for their black tie affairs at nightclubs. I settled into my recliner, the one piece of furniture June hadn't replaced with something more sophisticated, and watched her transformation. She was beautiful, I'll give her that. Blonde hair that caught light like spun gold, green eyes that could convince you the sky was purple if she put her mind to it. But watching her prepare for another man felt like watching a magician reveal their tricks. Once you see the wires and mirrors, the magic dies. "I might be late," she said, checking her phone. "Rhett's picking me up at 8. "In the BMW?" "Probably." She wasn't even trying to hide her excitement. The rain kept drumming against the windows, matching the rhythm of my thoughts. June had been pulling away for months, working late, taking mysterious phone calls, developing sudden interests in places and people that didn't include me. I'd convinced myself it was a phase, that marriage had its seasons like everything else. But ultimatums? That was new territory. Before we dive deeper into this story, I have one small request. Please subscribe, drop a like, comment, and hit that hype button to boost this channel so more people can discover these incredible Reddit stories. My phone buzzed. A text from my neighbor, Mrs. Kitteridge. "Fancy car in your driveway, company?" I glanced out the window. Sure enough, a silver BMW sat in our driveway, engine running, windshield wipers fighting the rain. Rhett was early, eager. June grabbed her purse, also new, also expensive, and headed for the door. "Don't wait up," she called over her shoulder. "Wouldn't dream of it." The door closed with a finality that seemed to echo through the house. I listened to her heels clicking down the front walk, heard the car door slam, watched the BMW's headlights sweep across my living room wall as they backed out of the driveway. Then silence. Just me, the rain, and the lingering scent of perfume and betrayal. I should have felt something, anger maybe, hurt. Instead, I felt oddly calm, calculating. Like when I'm troubleshooting a particularly stubborn network problem. You don't get emotional about corrupted data, you just find a way to fix it. Or in this case, delete it entirely. I walked upstairs to our bedroom and opened June's closet. Designer dresses hung in neat rows, shoes arranged by color and heel height. Everything organized, everything perfect, everything paid for with money we didn't really have. Her jewelry box sat on the dresser, overflowing with gifts from admirers, some from me, but plenty from sources unknown. I'd stopped asking where the new pieces came from months ago. In the back of her underwear drawer, behind the lingerie I'd bought for anniversaries and birthdays, I found what I was looking for: a small stack of photographs, June and Rhett at various locations around town. Cozy dinners, intimate conversations, hands touching across restaurant tables. The most recent photo showed them outside the neon silo, June's arms wrapped around Rhett's neck, both of them grinning like teenagers who'd just gotten away with something. Someone had written, "Missed this, babe," across the bottom in June's handwriting. Missed this, past tense, meaning they'd done this before. I sat on the edge of our bed, my bed technically, since I'd been making the payments, and felt something shift inside me. Not heartbreak, not rage, something colder and more useful, clarity. June wanted to play games? Fine, but she'd made one crucial mistake. She assumed I was too nice, too passive, too wrapped up in my own little world to fight back. Time to prove her wrong. I spent the next hour conducting what I liked to think of as reconnaissance. June had always been careless with her digital footprint. Passwords written on sticky notes, browser history never cleared, cloud storage synced to every device in the house. Her laptop sat open on the kitchen counter, still logged into her social media accounts. Dozens of messages with Rhett, going back months, plans, promises, complaints about her boring husband who never wants to do anything fun. One message thread made my jaw clench. "He's so clueless. I could bring you home and he'd probably offer to make coffee." Rhett's response: "Maybe we should test that theory." June: "Don't tempt me. Though honestly, it might be a mercy. Put him out of his misery. Put me out of my misery." How thoughtful. I screenshotted everything, uploaded it to a secure cloud account, then cleared the browser history. June would never know I'd been there. By 10 o'clock, I had a plan. I loaded June's designer clothes into garbage bags, not to throw away, but to relocate. Her jewelry went into a small box. Her expensive perfumes, her new shoes, her collection of handbags that cost more than most people's rent. Everything that mattered to her. Everything that made her feel special, successful, superior. My phone buzzed. A text from June. "Having amazing time. Don't wait up." The heart emoji was a nice touch. Really sold the whole loving wife performance. I texted back, "No problem. Sleep tight." Then I loaded everything into my truck and drove downtown. The neon silo squatted on the corner of 5th and Main like a glowing tumor, all purple lights and bass-heavy music that you could feel in your chest from a block away. The parking lot was full of expensive cars and expensive people pretending their lives were more interesting than they actually were. I found the BMW parked near the entrance, right where Rhett could see it from inside. Status symbol parking. The club's security guard was a mountain of a man named Tony Marcelli. We'd gone to high school together, back when he was just big instead of enormous. He worked construction during the day and bounced at the silo on weekends, saving up for his daughter's college tuition. Kian? Tony squinted at me through the rain. What brings you to this den of overpriced drinks and bad decisions? Looking for my wife, actually. June? Blonde, about 5'6", probably hanging off some guy in a gold chain. Tony's expression shifted. He'd seen this movie before. Ah, man, I'm sorry. Don't be. I'm not here to cause trouble. Actually, I brought her some things she forgot. I opened the truck's passenger door, revealing the bags and boxes. Tony's eyebrows shot up. That's a lot of stuff. She's a high-maintenance woman. Would you mind asking her to come outside? Tell her it's important. 5 minutes later, June emerged from the club, Rhett trailing behind her like a loyal golden retriever. Her face was flushed from dancing and drinking, her carefully applied makeup slightly smudged. Kian, what are you doing here? Her voice carried a note of panic. You said we should break up if I didn't like your plans. I gestured to the bags. So I thought you might want your stuff. The color drained from her face. What? Your clothes, your jewelry, your shoes, everything? I figured you'd want to start your new life with all your favorite things. A small crowd had gathered, club patrons drawn by the drama, phones already out and recording. June's eyes darted around, calculating the social cost of this public humiliation. You can't be serious. Serious? I caught myself. Completely serious. You wanted freedom, right? Here it is. Rhett stepped forward, puffing out his chest. Now hold on, buddy. Buddy? I laughed. We're not buddies, Rhett. Buddies don't sleep with each other's wives. More phones came out. Someone in the crowd whispered, "Oh, this is good." June grabbed my arm. Kian, please, can we talk about this at home? Home? You mean my home? The one you were so eager to leave for your amazing night out? I handed her the first bag. Then the second. The jewelry box. Her expensive perfumes. There you go. Everything you need for your new adventure. Tony watched from the club entrance, arms crossed, making sure things didn't get physical. A few other security guards had materialized, forming a loose perimeter. June stood in the rain, designer bags at her feet, looking like a refugee from her own life. Where am I supposed to go? She whispered. I shrugged. I'm sure Rhett has ideas. He's been full of them lately. Rhett's face had gone pale. This wasn't how he'd imagined the evening playing out. Look, man, maybe we can work something out. Work something out? I pulled out my phone and showed him one of the screenshots. His own words, talking about testing theories with my wife. What exactly did you have in mind? The crowd was growing larger, more phones recording, more voices whispering. June looked around desperately, realizing that her public humiliation was being broadcast to half the city in real time. Please, she said quietly, don't do this. Do what? Give you exactly what you asked for. I climbed back into my truck, rolled down the window. Oh, one more thing, June. You might want to check with management about your membership here. I heard they've been cracking down on fake IDs lately. Her eyes went wide. The fake ID she'd used to shave 3 years off her age for the club's Young Professionals nights. I drove away, watching in my rearview mirror as security approached June with questions, as Rhett tried to distance himself from the situation, as the crowd of onlookers continued filming what would undoubtedly become Riverside City's most watched social media drama of the month. My phone started buzzing with notifications before I'd even reached the highway. The videos were already going viral. June had wanted excitement, drama, a life worth posting about on social media. Well, she got it. I woke up the next morning to 17 missed calls from June and 43 text messages that ranged from pleading to threatening to incoherent. The last one, sent at 3:47 a.m., simply read, "You've ruined everything." Not yet. I hadn't. My first stop was Riverside City Hall, where I spent 2 hours in various offices, filing paperwork and making inquiries. Turns out Rhett's BMW had several unpaid parking tickets, information that became public record once I knew where to look. My second stop was Tony's Automotive, where I paid cash for a professional-grade car boot and a laminated sign that read, "Vehicle immobilized for unpaid violations." By noon, Rhett's BMW was effectively trapped in his dealership's parking lot, and I was sitting in my truck across the street, watching him discover his predicament. Rhett's used cars occupied a corner lot that had seen better decades. Colorful flags fluttered from every available surface, and hand-painted signs promised amazing deals and instant financing. It was the kind of place where desperate people went to make bad financial decisions. Through my binoculars, I watched Rhett emerge from his office trailer, coffee in hand, ready to start another day of separating fools from their money. He stopped short when he saw the boot on his car, spilling coffee down his silk shirt. The tantrum that followed was spectacular. Rhett kicked the boot, screamed at his employees, and spent 20 minutes on the phone with various city departments, trying to figure out who was responsible. None of them had any record of booting his car, of course, because I'd done it myself. While Rhett was having his breakdown, I made my second move. A quick call to the local health department about unusual odors coming from his lot resulted in an impromptu inspection that tied up his business for the rest of the afternoon. But the real masterpiece was yet to come. I'd spent the morning creating social media accounts under fake names, building networks of followers using photos and information scraped from public profiles. Nothing illegal, nothing that couldn't be found with 30 minutes of dedicated searching. By evening, Rhett the Cheat was trending locally, complete with screenshots of his messages with June, photos of them together, and detailed timelines of their affair. The internet had done what the internet does best, taken a personal drama and turned it into public entertainment. June's phone started ringing around dinner time. "Kian, you have to stop this," she said when I finally answered. "People are calling me at work. My boss wants to see me first thing Monday morning." "Sounds stressful. This isn't funny. Do you have any idea what you've done?" I leaned back in my recliner, the same chair where I'd watched her prepare for her date with Rhett just 24 hours earlier. "I've given you exactly what you wanted. Freedom, independence, a chance to be with the man you really love. I never said I loved him. No, but you said you'd break up with me if I didn't approve of your date. So I'm approving. I'm being supportive. I'm giving you my blessing to pursue your happiness." Silence on the other end. "Where did you sleep last night, June?" More silence. "Let me guess. Rhett's place wasn't quite ready for overnight guests? Maybe he's got roommates? Or maybe his ex-wife still has a key? How did you—" "Lucky guess. So where did you end up? Hotel? Your car? Friend's couch?" "I stayed with Orion. Orion Vanton, June's best friend since college, a tech-savvy social media manager who ran her own consulting business. Orion had never liked me, thought June had settled for a basic tech guy when she could have had someone more ambitious, more exciting, more worthy of her obvious superiority. That's nice. Good friends are hard to find. Kian, please, can we just talk, like adults? We are talking. I mean in person, face to face. I considered this. Okay, tomorrow night, 7 o'clock, Riverside Diner on Route 9. Thank you, I knew you'd... Bring Rhett. What? If you're serious about this relationship, bring him. Let's all sit down together and work out the details. Custody of the furniture, division of assets, who gets which friends. Very civilized. Kian, I don't think... 7 o'clock, June. Both of you or neither of you. I hung up and immediately called the diner to reserve their back corner booth, the one with the best acoustics for carrying conversations to nearby tables. Riverside City was a small town disguised as a city. News traveled fast, and I wanted to make sure our little family meeting had the right audience. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "This is Orion, we need to talk." Interesting. June's loyal friend wanted a private conversation. I texted back, "Sure, when and where?" "Tonight, my place. 9 p.m., come alone." Even more interesting. Orion lived in a converted warehouse downtown, all exposed brick and industrial lighting. The kind of place that looked expensive but felt cold. I spent the rest of the evening preparing for what felt like a chess match where I couldn't see all the pieces. June was predictable, emotional, impulsive, prone to dramatic gestures that backfired spectacularly. But Orion was different, calculating, strategic. If she wanted to meet, it meant she had a plan. The question was whether that plan involved helping June or helping herself. At 8:50, I parked outside Orion's building and checked my phone one last time. The social media storm around June and Rhett was still growing, with new details and theories emerging every hour. Someone had found old court records showing Rhett's previous bankruptcy. Someone else had discovered June's fake LinkedIn credentials. The internet was a beautiful thing when it was working for you instead of against you. I climbed the stairs to Orion's loft, noting the security cameras, the reinforced door, the general atmosphere of someone who valued privacy above all else. Orion answered on the first knock, dressed in black jeans and a gray sweater that probably cost more than my monthly rent. She was attractive in a sharp, angular way, all cheekbones and attitude. "Kian, thanks for coming." Her loft was exactly what I'd expected: minimalist furniture, expensive electronics, and walls covered with monitors showing various social media feeds, including several dedicated to tracking the ongoing drama surrounding my wife and her boyfriend. "Impressive setup," I said. "I like to stay informed." She gestured to a leather chair. "Drink?" "I'm good." Orion poured herself something amber from a crystal decanter, then settled into the chair across from me. "So," she said, "you've certainly made an impression." "Just getting started." She smiled, not warmly. "That's what I was afraid of." We stared at each other for a moment, two predators sizing each other up. "June thinks you're having some kind of breakdown," Orion continued. "That this is all just hurt feelings and wounded pride." "What do you think?" "I think you're more dangerous than either of them realizes." I leaned forward. "Is that a problem?" Orion took a sip of her drink, studying me over the rim of her glass. "That depends," she said finally, "on whether you're smart enough to know when to stop." The next evening, I arrived at Riverside Diner 15 minutes early, claiming the corner booth with the perfect view of the entrance and the unfortunate acoustic properties that would carry our conversation to half the restaurant. The diner was busy for a Tuesday night. Shift workers grabbing dinner, truckers passing through, locals who'd heard rumors about the evening's entertainment. Word traveled fast in Riverside City, especially when it involved public relationship drama. June arrived first, looking like she'd aged 5 years in 2 days. Her designer clothes were wrinkled, her usually perfect hair was pulled back in a messy ponytail, and she'd clearly been crying recently. She slid into the booth across from me, hands shaking slightly as she reached for the menu. "You look tired," I observed. "I haven't been sleeping well." "Orion's couch not comfortable?" June's head snapped up. "How did you know I was staying with Orion?" "Lucky guess. Where's Rhett?" "He's coming. He's just dealing with some car trouble." I nodded sympathetically. Those BMWs can be temperamental. All those fancy electronics. The diner's bell chimed, and Rhett walked in, looking around nervously before spotting our booth. His usual swagger was notably absent, replaced by the hunched shoulders and darting eyes of a man who'd spent the day being recognized in public for all the wrong reasons. He slid in next to June, avoiding eye contact with me. "Rhett," I said cheerfully. "Thanks for coming. How's business?" "It's been better," he muttered. "I heard about the health department inspection. Rough break." His eyes narrowed. "Yeah, funny how these things just happen randomly. Isn't it? Almost like someone's got it out for you." The waitress appeared, Betty, a 60-something woman who'd been serving coffee and gossip at this diner since before I was born. She was also Mrs. Kitteridge's sister, which meant anything said within 50 feet of her would be common knowledge by morning. "Evening, folks. What can I get you?" We ordered coffee and pie, the kind of wholesome American meal that made our situation seem even more surreal. "So," I said, once Betty had moved on to eavesdrop on other tables, "let's talk about the future." June and Rhett exchanged glances. "Kian," June began, "I want you to know that I never meant for things to happen this way." "Which things? The lying, the cheating, or the public humiliation?" "All of it. I was confused, and Rhett was there, and you decided to give me an ultimatum instead of just asking for a divorce like an adult." Rhett cleared his throat. "Look, man, I know this is awkward." "Awkward?" I laughed loud enough to turn heads at nearby tables. "Rhett, my friend, this isn't awkward. Awkward is running into your ex at the grocery store. This is something else entirely." Betty returned with our coffee, taking her time arranging cups and napkins while obviously listening to every word. "The thing is," I continued once she'd left, "I'm actually grateful. You've both done me a tremendous favor." June frowned. "What do you mean?" "You've shown me who you really are, both of you, and that's valuable information." I pulled out my phone and scrolled through the social media feeds that had been documenting their affair for the past 48 hours. "Did you know you're famous now? Local celebrities. Rhett the Cheat has over 10,000 shares. June, your boss called you in for a meeting, right? Something about company image and social media policies?" June's face went pale. "How could you possibly know that?" "Small town. People talk." Rhett leaned forward, trying to look intimidating. "You need to stop this, right now, before it goes too far." "Or what? Or you might not like what happens next." I set down my coffee cup and smiled. "Is that a threat, Rhett?" "It's a friendly warning. From the man who's been screwing my wife for months? That's rich." The conversations at nearby tables had stopped. Everyone was listening now, phones discreetly recording, the evening's entertainment exceeding all expectations. June grabbed my hand across the table. "Kian, please. I made a mistake, a huge mistake. But we can fix this. We can go to counseling, work things out." "Work what out? The part where you called me clueless? The part where you said being married to me was misery? Or the part where you planned to bring your boyfriend home to test whether I'd actually notice?" Her grip tightened. "You read my messages." "I read everything. Your texts, your emails, your social media DMs. 3 months of planning this affair, June. 3 months of laughing about how stupid and boring your husband was." Tears started rolling down her cheeks. "I was angry. People say things they don't mean when they're angry." "For 3 months?" Rhett stood up abruptly. "This is bullshit. I don't have to sit here and listen to this." "You're right," I agreed. "You don't. Feel free to leave any time. But if you do, everyone's going to assume you're abandoning June. Again." He sat back down. "Here's what's going to happen," I said, loud enough for the entire diner to hear. "You two are going to finish your pie, pay your check, and walk out of here together. Then you're going to figure out your own living situation, because June's not coming home." "You can't just throw me out," June protested. "I have rights. You have the right to file for divorce and request your fair share of our assets, which, let me think, we have about $1,200 in checking, a truck that's worth maybe $8,000, and a house with negative equity. Oh, and your credit card debt. Can't forget that." June's mouth opened and closed like a fish out of water. "But hey," I continued, "at least you'll have Rhett. Successful businessman, BMW owner, man about town. I'm sure he'll take good care of you." Rhett was studying his pie like it contained the secrets of the universe. "Won't you, Rhett?" "Well, I mean, my situation is complicated right now." "Complicated how?" "I'm kind of between places at the moment." June turned to stare at him. "What does that mean? My lease is up next month, and with business being slow?" The pieces were falling into place beautifully. Rhett was broke, probably had been for months. The BMW was leased, the dealership was failing, and his entire successful businessman persona was as fake as June's LinkedIn profile. "So let me get this straight," I said. "June, you left your husband for a man who's about to be homeless, and Rhett, you seduced a married woman who's about to be divorced and penniless. You two deserve each other." I stood up, threw a 20 on the table, and looked around the diner at all the faces watching our little drama unfold. "Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you the future Mr. and Mrs. Rhett Vossen. May they find the happiness they deserve." The silence that followed was broken only by the sound of phones buzzing as the evening's entertainment was shared with the wider world. I walked out of the diner and into the parking lot, where I found Orion waiting by my truck. "Interesting performance," she said. "You were watching?" "Through the window. Very thorough destruction." I unlocked my truck. "Was there something you wanted, Orion?" "Actually, yes. I have a proposition for you." "I'm listening." She glanced back at the diner, where June and Rhett were still sitting in stunned silence. "There's something you should know about your wife's affair," she said. "Something that might change how you feel about revenge." Orion's loft felt different this time, less like a showroom and more like a command center. The monitors on her walls displayed dozens of social media feeds, news sites, and what looked suspiciously like private security cameras from around the city. "Drink?" she offered, already pouring 2 glasses of whiskey. "Why not?" I settled into the same leather chair from our previous meeting, noting that she'd added new screens since yesterday. One showed the exterior of Riverside Diner, where June and Rhett were finally emerging, looking shell-shocked. "You've been busy," I observed. "Information is my business." Orion handed me the whiskey. "And business is good." "What did you want to tell me about June's affair?" Orion smiled, the same predatory expression I'd seen before. "That's the interesting part. It wasn't really June's affair at all." She picked up a tablet and swiped through several screens before handing it to me. Text messages, but not the ones I'd found on June's laptop. These were between Orion and Rhett, dating back 6 months. "You orchestrated this," I said, reading through their conversations. "Orchestrated is such a strong word. I prefer facilitated." The messages told a clear story. Orion had reconnected with Rhett through social media, learned about his financial troubles, and suggested he might find a solution in June's growing dissatisfaction with her marriage. "Why?" Orion settled into her chair, cradling her whiskey. "Because June had something I wanted." "Which was?" "Her job." I looked up from the tablet. "You wanted her marketing position?" "I wanted her client list, her contacts, her reputation." Orion's smile turned cold. June was always better at networking than me. People liked her, trusted her. It was infuriating. The pieces were falling into place. "So you set her up to destroy herself." "I gave her the opportunity to make her own choices. She chose poorly." I scrolled through more messages, finding detailed discussions of June's schedule, her emotional vulnerabilities, her financial insecurities. "Rhett was broke," I said. "You knew he couldn't actually provide for her." "Of course, but June didn't know that. She saw the BMW, the dealership, the expensive dinners. She didn't look too closely at the details." "And you made sure she wouldn't." Orion nodded. I may have mentioned how successful Rhett had become, how much money he was making, how much more exciting his life was compared to being married to an IT guy. I set down the tablet. You played us all. I played the game better than anyone else. June wanted excitement and validation. Rhett wanted financial security. You wanted a faithful wife. Everyone got exactly what they deserved. What did you get? June's biggest client signed with me yesterday. Her second biggest client is meeting with me tomorrow. By the end of the week, I'll have absorbed most of her business. I had to admire the efficiency of it. Orion had destroyed June's marriage, reputation, and career with a single coordinated campaign, while positioning herself to benefit from the wreckage. There's just one problem, I said. What's that? You underestimated me. Orion's smile faltered slightly. How so? I pulled out my own phone and showed her the recording app that had been running since I'd entered her loft. Everything you just told me? It's all recorded, and it's already been uploaded to 3 different cloud services. Her face went pale. You can't use that. It's illegal to record someone without their consent. Actually, in this state, only one party needs to consent to recording a conversation. And I consent. Orion stood up abruptly, moving toward one of her computers. Delete it, now. Or what? You'll call the police? And tell them what exactly? That I recorded you confessing to orchestrating an elaborate fraud scheme? She stopped, hand hovering over her keyboard. Here's what's going to happen, Orion. You're going to call June's clients, all of them, and tell them you made a mistake. That June is the better choice for their business. That you were acting out of jealousy and spite. I won't do that. Yes, you will, because if you don't, this recording goes public, along with all the evidence of your manipulation, your lies, and your complete betrayal of someone who trusted you. Orion sank back into her chair, the fight going out of her. June will never forgive you anyway, she said quietly. Even if you save her career, even if you expose the truth, she'll still have cheated on you. She'll still have chosen Rhett over you. You're right. But that was her choice to make, not yours. I finished my whiskey and stood up. You have 24 hours to start making those phone calls. After that, the recording goes live, and you can explain to the world how you destroyed your best friend's life for a few marketing contracts. I walked toward the door, then paused. Oh, and Orion, if you're thinking about running, don't. I've got copies of everything stored in places you'll never find. Try to disappear, and they'll surface automatically. I left her sitting in her high-tech command center, surrounded by screens showing the chaos she'd created, finally understanding what it felt like to be outmaneuvered. The drive home gave me time to think about what came next. June was still June. She'd still made the choice to cheat, still delivered that ultimatum, still humiliated our marriage in public. But knowing that Orion had manipulated the situation changed things, not forgiveness. I wasn't ready for that, might never be ready for that. But justice? That was something I could work with. My phone buzzed with a text from June. Can we please talk? Just the 2 of us? I texted back, tomorrow, Riverside Park, noon. It was time for the final confrontation. Riverside Park sat on the banks of the Clearwater River, a stretch of green space that had seen better decades. The playground equipment was rusty, the picnic tables were covered in graffiti, and the walking paths were cracked and overgrown, but it was quiet, private, and far enough from downtown that we wouldn't have an audience. I arrived early, claiming a bench near the old gazebo where June and I had gotten engaged 4 years ago. The irony wasn't lost on me. June appeared at exactly noon, looking like she'd spent the night crying. She wore jeans and a simple sweater. No designer clothes, no expensive jewelry, no armor of sophistication to hide behind. Thank you for coming, she said, settling onto the opposite end of the bench. You said you wanted to talk. We sat in silence for a moment, watching the river flow past. A family of ducks paddled near the shore, completely oblivious to human drama. I talked to Orion this morning, June said finally. Did you? She told me everything, about Rhett, about the plan, about how she manipulated the whole situation. I nodded, but didn't respond. She said you recorded her confession. I did. Are you going to use it? I turned to look at her directly. That depends on you. June's eyes filled with tears. I'm so sorry, Kian. I know that doesn't fix anything, but I need you to know that I never meant for any of this to happen. But it did happen. Yes. You still made the choice to cheat. Orion didn't force you to do anything. No, she didn't. But she knew exactly what to say, exactly how to make me feel like my life was boring and meaningless, and that I deserved better. I leaned back against the bench. Did you? Deserve better? June was quiet for a long moment. I thought I did. I thought I was settling for less than I was worth. And now? Now I realize I was the one who wasn't worth it. You deserved better than a wife who could be talked into throwing away her marriage for excitement and validation. A jogger passed by, earbuds in, lost in their own world. Normal people living normal lives, dealing with normal problems. What do you want, June? I want to come home. I want to try to fix this, if that's even possible. It's not. She nodded, tears flowing freely now. I know, I had to ask. But there is something you can do. She looked up, hopefully. Rhett's dealership is failing. He's been lying to customers, selling cars with hidden problems, falsifying loan documents. I have evidence. How do you... I've been busy. The question is whether that evidence becomes public or gets turned over to the proper authorities quietly. What do you want me to do? Tell the truth. About the affair, about Orion's manipulation, about Rhett's lies. Go on record with everything. June wiped her eyes with the back of her hand. That will destroy what's left of my reputation. Your reputation was destroyed the moment you walked into that nightclub with another man. This is about making sure the right people face consequences for their actions. And if I do this, if I tell the truth about everything, then maybe some good comes out of this mess. Rhett's customers get justice. Orion's clients learn who they're really dealing with. And you get to start over with a clean slate. What about us? I stood up, looking out at the river. There is no us, June. There hasn't been for months, maybe longer. We both just pretended otherwise. I loved you, she said quietly. I know. I loved you too. But love isn't enough when there's no trust, no respect, no foundation to build on. June joined me at the railing overlooking the water. So what happens now? Now you decide who you want to be, the woman who got manipulated into destroying her life, or the woman who takes responsibility and tries to make things right. And you? What will you do? I smiled for the first time in days. I'm going to sell the house, pay off our debts, and start over somewhere new, maybe somewhere with better weather. That sounds nice. It does, doesn't it? We stood in comfortable silence, watching the river carry leaves and debris downstream. Everything flows toward something new, eventually. I'll do it, June said finally. I'll tell the truth about everything. Good. Will you think of me sometimes? When you're in your new place with better weather? I considered the question seriously. I'll remember the good times. There were good times, weren't there? Yes, there were. Then that's what I'll remember. June nodded and started walking back toward the parking area. Halfway there, she turned around. Kian, for what it's worth, you're not boring. You're not clueless. You're definitely not someone who deserved what I did to you. I know, I said, but thank you for saying it. She got in her car, Rhett's BMW, I noticed, which meant he'd probably abandoned her along with everything else, and drove away. I stayed by the river for another hour, watching the water flow and thinking about second chances, new beginnings, and the difference between revenge and justice. My phone buzzed with notifications. Orion had started making her phone calls just as I'd demanded. June's clients were already reaching out, apologizing for their hasty decisions, asking if they could resume their previous contracts. By evening, the local news was running a story about fraud at Rhett's dealership, based on anonymous tips and documented evidence. By morning, the state attorney general's office would be opening an investigation, and by next week, I'd be meeting with real estate agents about selling the house and moving somewhere warm, somewhere nobody knew my story or cared about my past, somewhere I could be whoever I wanted to be next. The sun was setting over Riverside City, painting the sky in shades of orange and gold. It was beautiful in its way. Even endings could be beautiful if you looked at them from the right angle. I got in my truck and drove home, to my house, my space, my quiet evening with no drama, no lies, and no ultimatums. Tomorrow would bring new possibilities. But tonight, for the first time in months, I was exactly where I wanted to be.